Hey, all you midlife women out there. Are you ready to step into spicy confidence? If the answer is yes, then we have some exciting news to share.
We are launching a one-on-one coaching program for midlife women who want to start showing up as the most confident version of themselves and who aren't afraid to go after what they really want.
This coaching program will help you discover your voice, embrace your desires, and develop your inner confidence so that you can truly live the authentic life you want without holding back.
There are only 3 spots available, ladies, so head to the link in the show notes and apply now. Now let's get into the episode.
Hey, all you spicy ladies out there. Jules and Michelle here from Seattle, Washington. And we are also called the Emerald City, just so you know. Here to bring you all kinds of no BS shenanigans and conversations and spicy truth bombs. Right, Michelle?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Here to help all you midlife women redefine your relationships, ditch those toxic cycles, and reclaim your power one episode at a time.
So let's get into it, Miss Michelle.
Let's do it.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you ready to talk about resentment?
Resentment. Yes.
Don't resent me for talking about this.
I won't. Plenty of that elsewhere in my life.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So we were talking about resentment being the silent relationship killer, but really wanted to, focus on this from a more positive perspective and just see how you can let it go, because we all have it probably in some capacity in our lives and relationships. So
is it possible to have a positive aspect?
Yes.
In regard to resentment?
I think positive would be that you are recognizing that you have it and that you're not letting it fester.
Yeah, that's what we've learned as we've gone through midlife, right?
Yeah. Well, I had mentioned to you when we were getting started that there's an older woman that was in my life. She's gone now, but in my life who had, I've never seen anybody with so much resentment.
Really?
It was crippling, I would say, because she really never found a way to deal with it. And so it carried into everything she did, literally until the day she died. It was really very sad. Now, I don't think we're in those places really, but if you don't deal with this stuff up front, or you deal with it in a toxic manner, which has to do with avoidance and all that kind of stuff, then it doesn't really go away. It just kind of sits there and grows and grows and grows.
And not only does it make you miserable, but everybody around you.
Yeah.
Everybody around you.
Well, it really does impact your ability to be positive. It's like a wet blanket or a negative downer kind of thing. So where have you run across that in your lifetime?
I've run across resentment. I mean, realistically, in my marriage, there was resentment. Same. I have run into resentment in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people do in some fashion.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, like you're the one working your ass off.
Yeah.
And there's others just sliding by and getting praise because they know how to play a game, right?
Are they taking credit for things that are...
Yeah. So that definitely can cause resentment in the workplace.
What, in those scenarios, like what you're talking about, what could you do, or could you do anything to try to alleviate that in the workplace and not, harbor that against the person that...
It's just like anything else, and you just have to let it go. You really do.
But you don't harbor it towards that person?
I actually have run into this, and I do harbor it against that person for a while. It's like something you got to work through, just like anything else. You got to work through the ish of it.
Right.
And do some self-reflection, really. Mm-hmm. And just know that what that person is doing doesn't affect what I'm doing. I mean, it does.
It does.
But as far as the outcomes go, if I just focus and not let that, kind of run my attitude or what I got going on, it makes for a much better day.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
When you hear something about, like, you in families, for example, you've got,
there's that
like,
too.
we've got this is a great example. You've got elder parents, right? And there's siblings that are trying to take care of these elder parents, but some are doing more than others.
Yeah.
Or, I know we've got a friend that lives out of state who has a sibling that doesn't live in the same area as one of the parents that's left, but they really aren't interactive at all. So one person ends up taking on a lot of the responsibility, financial responsibility even, and how, you know, how this person's being cared for and everything. It's a lot. And so I could see how that could become a very a circumstance where you would be incredibly resentful, because it's like someone's not picking up their own slack when it comes to responsibilities within the family.
I think that's where, and really in any of these scenarios, what I've learned personally, that's where boundaries come into play.
Right.
And that's really difficult in the situation. It can be. And I can talk about that now because I have gotten on in years, and I have the hindsight now to know.
You've gotten on in years?
Yeah, gotten on in years. But I have the hindsight now to be able to look back and see some of that. And that's where boundaries come into play, which make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're, you know, drawing a hard line and setting a hard boundary. There's a lot of different ways you got to go about it.
I think sometimes it's like just not letting these other people get away with shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's when you're talking about like that scenario with the family thing, it's like, you know, some people just slide, you know, like my friend Mary, she's got her family brothers and she's got sister, you know, that kind of thing. And she's the baby, but the brothers really, she's kind of dictated what's taken place with her parents when they were here, because she seemed to have the most wherewithal. And then they start relying on her and just assume she's going to take care of things. So all of a sudden the entire load is on one person's shoulder.
Is she the oldest?
She's the baby.
Oh, she's the baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the boys are like, you know, well, we're
That's
boys.
because they're boys.
Well, if you tell them to do something, they'll do it, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like they are thinking about what needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
So
many times that happens with the oldest.
Yeah.
Person in the family.
Well, the oldest is the one that takes on a lot of stuff. In this particular case, it didn't. But you could see, you know, earlier on resentment kind of building up, but then it was like this epiphany moment where she was just like, I can't let this stuff, you know, wear me down, so to speak. And so she just kind of decided to meet them where they're at, you know, just was like, this is the way these people are.
Yeah.
Yes, they're related to me. This is the way these people are. They are not going to change. And I'm not going to put all this effort in to try to make them change. So what's most important is that these parents are taken care of and taken care of well. And so that was kind of the way she solved the problem for herself. She just let it go, like you were saying, you know, just like really literally let it go.
Yeah.
And just kind of was like, I can't live in their brain. I'm not going to try to figure out why they're like this or why they're not having that same level of attention. I'm just going to do what I got to do.
And that's on them. I mean, that situation, whatever the situation might be. And I know that whole let it go thing because of Mel Robbins is like huge,
right? And
has been in recent, like this last year. But it's so true. It was talked about way before that.
Yeah.
And that would, you know, let that shit go, let it go, let it go. But it's very true. It's
like if you let everything go, then you're kind of a freaking doormat.
No.
So there's a balance.
I disagree.
Okay. So tell me why you think differently.
I tend to be that way. It's like you're doing things in the background and people don't necessarily know. You're setting boundaries without people knowing it. You are letting things go without people knowing it. If you make a big bad deal about everything, you're going to be miserable all the time.
Yeah.
And so I am able to move on. It's not easy all the time. Julie knows. I'm you know, crying to her a lot of times when I got things going on. It's not like I'm skippity doodah through life and everything's dandy, you know. But it's kind of like forgiveness, that whole forgiveness thing. When you're able to forgive somebody else, that's freedom for you.
Yeah.
Whatever the scenario is on their end, doesn't matter. It's freedom for you.
Yeah.
So same thing when you let things go. It's actually very freeing.
It is very freeing, and the forgiveness thing kind of goes along with that.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, I would say resentment, at least in my experience, has been that there's these maybe quote understood expectations, expectations in general, but if you've not really shared what those expectations are, you just assume. There's a lot of assuming going on that someone's going to meet them and they don't, and then they're frustrated and you feel like you're kind of getting the short end of the stick, or you're picking up all of the slack and whatever, if it's a romantic relationship or whatever, that starts to add up, and if you don't talk about things, which I would say I've not been very good about that in the past, just saying, what's on my mind, or saying, hey, I'm feeling kind of blah, blah, blah about something. You just drop these passive aggressive comments, or it ends up turning into sarcasm, or it turns into these other things that are really toxic traits and ways of communicating. And that's how it kind of starts.
Yeah.
I think, and the people that are around, they're oblivious. Like if it's your husband or it's a boyfriend or something like that, honestly, it's like I was married. He was freaking oblivious, probably. I would do the silent treatment. I did all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, I'm so fucking done. I don't want to, I'm not dealing with this. I'm just going to do what I need to do. But in all fairness, I never really said anything.
Right.
I just figured he was supposed to know.
You're expecting him to pick up on all the cues.
Yes. And it's like, and that's really not fair, because if you turn around and look at it from the other perspective, if someone was doing that to me, I'd say, well, you just open your mouth and tell me what's on your mind. Now, a lot of this comes from experience and, obviously having been through a lot of these circumstances. And so now I will stop myself and I'll be like, if I start behaving in that way, if I start making a comment or something here and there because I want someone to pick up that they're going in the wrong direction, I have to really look at the way I'm communicating.
Yeah.
And is that the best way to approach it? Because I'm hoping they're going to pick up on what I'm saying. I'm hoping they're going to pick up what I'm putting down, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily going to, and you're not holding them accountable for picking it up. So it just continues on in the same way.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we end up building this wall of when you talk about frustration, it goes into like these expectations that haven't been met, that you have, that someone else might not even know about. And then you build these walls of resentment, and then you're just bitchy.
You're feeling unappreciated.
Yes.
In so many ways. So there's the unspoken expectations are killer, man.
Yeah.
I just want to kind of go over some of the things because we just kind of went through a lot there in a short period of time about some of the things that cause resentment. So unspoken expectations, overgiving, and people pleasing, right? Lack of boundaries. If we're not setting those boundaries, feeling, and all these things brings that to the forefront, that feeling of being unappreciated.
Right.
And then that's when it's like probably too about here, almost, boiling over.
Right. Do you know people that are like extreme people pleasers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
I mean, I have those tendencies, I know.
I mean, I do too. My whole family.
Yeah.
My whole family is
but
like
extreme ones. It's like they're very people. I know one woman I'm thinking about in particular, extreme people pleaser. Extreme, great lady, but I'm telling you, her feelings get hurt really bad if you don't acknowledge every single thing that
then we're
she
doing
does.
It for the wrong reason.
Right.
That's a whole other episode.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you want to make sure that you're acknowledging it, because if you don't, then she will get kind of snappy, feeling unappreciated.
Right.
And I don't want anybody to feel unappreciated, especially if they're doing things for you, work wise or whatever. But I'm very careful about it.
Sure.
And like you said, I guess maybe I'm doing it for the wrong reasons, or, it's something that maybe I need to be doing more of naturally.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, oh God, I gotta, make sure she's feeling that way or she's going to get butthurt,
Right.
kind of a thing. I think when you look at relationships, like romantic relationships, is where a lot of this festers. And then, we get people, think about it. There's people in our audience that are starting out the divorce process, going through the divorce process, going through counseling, trying to figure out. All of it really boils down to this breakdown in communication, really. And so the resentment piece of it comes from, I would say, the breakdown in that communication, right? And so if you're not acknowledging or talking about it, then pretty soon you're in a situation where you've been married for 10 years and you come home, hey, how's it going? Oh, good. How's your day? Fine. And then that's all you guys talk about.
I think too in relationships though, some of that can be old hurt, maybe some past
Yes.
situations maybe that were never addressed, or we forgave him and moved on and didn't really process our emotions through some of that.
That's a good point.
I think there's resentment. There can be resentment in those situations too.
What about like resentment around, and again, this is going to any kind of relationship, but like around addiction issues or things like if you've got a significant other that is an alcoholic, let's say, it's like I would say that the resentment would build and build and build if they're not addressing whatever it is. And to the point where, you're just like, what am I doing? Why am I here? I'm unhappy. We're not talking. We're not accomplishing anything.
I think anything that maybe we don't approve of ourselves that maybe our significant other is doing.
Yeah.
And that could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
To your point, you're talking about addiction, but I mean, I was sitting here thinking of things in my own marriage that didn't have anything to do with addiction. And I'm not talking about keeping the toilet seat up, nothing trivial like that. But I mean, truly some habitual things. And, whatever those things are, if we're not setting boundaries, if we're not communicating about them and really putting it out there on how we're feeling, then, I mean, the resentment is definitely going to build, and it just doesn't do anybody. And then we're like putting each other down.
Yeah.
We're saying derogatory things because that's our way of,
you're being snarky.
Yeah, snarky, and feeling better about yourself and trying to put your spouse down, or so it's
well. And have you seen that happening
toxic
in front of other people? Like you've seen spouses that
it's uncomfortable.
It's super uncomfortable.
Super uncomfortable.
And it's like regardless of what's happening, behind the scenes, it's like I mean, you always should have your person's back, I would say, and then you can tell them you really were out of pocket later. It's funny. I have a friend who we were just talking about this the other day because she and her husband have, you were talking about the toilet seat thing. They had gotten into this argument about the dishes, and it really wasn't about the dishes.
Right.
It was like a culmination of frustrations that the husband probably was having about things from not being heard, and it just blew up.
Yeah.
And it was about the dishes not being done in the sink.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's telling me this, and I'm like, is it really about the dishes? I mean, there's a lot more going on here than just the dishes. It's not about the dishes.
Right.
It's about all of the other stuff that he probably feels like she doesn't acknowledge enough, kind of a thing. And so how do you fix that? It's not about doing the dishes.
I'm thinking about the love language episode too. I mean, that is a whole aspect, or can be, of this. If we're understanding what our significant other's love language is, we're going to be able to, I mean, I don't want to sound like but you can play that. It works. It really works.
We're going to have another couple episodes coming up on the love languages too, right? Because we need to talk about those a little bit more, but what you're saying makes complete sense.
Yeah.
If this person's love language is acts of service, and they're doing acts of service because that's their love language for you, and you're not acknowledging or appreciating or whatever, because your love language is something completely different. Maybe it's gifts. Or something else. Look at it like it's a gift that he's doing the dishes.
Right.
But anyway, it's these little tiny things that really, in the big scope of thing, probably don't mean much. You leave your socks on the floor, or the toilet seat up.
I think that happens too with families when there's children. The resentment can build as a mom. I mean, truly, if we're, and then you find, I would find myself, yelling at my kids. For, whatever, because I didn't set boundaries, the way I needed to leading up to and with whatever chores. And
so you're basically taking it out on them.
Yeah.
Because you're pissed off that you come home and things aren't done right.
And if there's frustration between you and your spouse, family dynamics, there's a whole lot of rabbit holes with this subject.
The other thing too, just on a side note for that, is that, I have this tendency to want things done a certain way. And so I've had to kind of let that go, because I'm like, if I'm going to provide or give someone the responsibility to do something and just, kind of explain what I'm looking for, I have to be okay with the fact that it might not be exactly what I wanted,
Yeah.
that I need to be appreciative of the fact that they did it,
Yep.
I mean, unless it's half-assed.
No, yeah. I learned that long ago. My kids, my boys, I remember when I started working after being a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And, I would ask them, I just remember this one time to fold the towels and put them in the cupboard. And when I got home, they were in the cupboard that barely
They took them
folded.
and shoved them.
They tried. They did probably half-assed to your point.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember that moment because I almost got really upset about it. But then I was like, you know what? I don't have to do it. They're in the cupboard.
Did you take them out and refold them?
No, I
Okay.
didn't. No, I didn't. My dad would do stuff like that, and then it makes you feel like
Then it
you
makes you feel
can't.
inadequate.
You're not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, but yeah,
Especially when you're talking about kids, they notice that.
yeah,
If you're redoing the work that they're doing, or if what you did isn't good enough, like you wash the dishes but you didn't do it well enough, and they
yeah,
redo the stuff. It's like that's kind of would hurt my feelings.
yeah. And I wish when you're a grandma, none of that shit matters.
I know.
It really
They can do whatever they want.
It's true. It's true. It's very interesting, but yeah. We need to have the grandma mentality in all aspects of our life.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it would be helpful.
I mean, I never had grandmas that were like really nurturing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I guess it would depend. It would depend.
And no grandpas.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my mom was very nurturing with
Yeah.
my children. But my grandma, my dad, not a nurturing woman as a general rule. As a matter of fact, it was like you needed to nurture her.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation. But so we're saying that resentment, honestly, is kind of like this bill that comes due, when you have abandoned your boundaries. Like you're saying, it's like, okay, this is what's happening because I didn't speak up and say what I needed to say. So who owns that? You?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I
think that's the hard part for people to acknowledge.
It is a hard part, and it's still hard. I mean, I don't do that perfectly, but I have learned that it comes back to me. These are choices that I make and how I handle them.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do. Sometimes we figure it out while we're doing it, and then we might know better next time.
Yeah. Or you give yourself a little bit of grace on how you handle things.
Yeah.
I've found for myself that, and really, it's like I don't really have a lot of relationships right now where I feel like that is prevalent, because I've done a pretty good job of eliminating a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not to say that it won't come up or what have you, but when I see those things festering, it's like I don't like the person that I am when I feel that way. And I'm probably not the best for other people either.
Well, and that's a huge indicator.
Yeah.
I remember feeling that way in my marriage. And I didn't like the person that I was becoming and that I became.
Yeah.
Through all the things that, went on. That's a whole other story. But, and so then that was a lot of reflection on my own self. Okay. Like, where does that come back to? Honestly, it was coming back to me.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, and it's like, and what are you going to do about it? I mean, that's the whole thing. Cause I know what you're saying. It's like, I was the queen of, and I'm totally tattling on myself about this, cause I feel like I'm okay to talk about it. I've acknowledged where I was and how I was and what I was doing. And it was a complete lack of being able to communicate. And I take accountability for my portion, but I wasn't really having someone to communicate with either.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it was, I'd try, but then I wouldn't try that hard, because it was like, you're kind of like almost gaslit a little bit, like, what's the problem kind of a thing. So I would just kind of let things go. But then I would end up, I was snarky.
Yeah.
So snarky, and honestly, probably in hindsight, rather disrespectful.
Yeah.
In how I approach things, or I'd make sarcastic comments, or I'd roll my eyes, or I would do things like that, which you should never do with your spouse. And he never did that. He didn't, at least that I knew. As far as I know, he didn't roll his eyes at me or whatever. He really didn't do any of that stuff. It was almost kind of like I was maybe trying to get him to wake up, say something.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just didn't like the person that I was becoming.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you are in a situation where you feel like that resentment's taking over who you are, you really have to step back and ask yourself, what do I need to do differently, because I'm better than this. I'm better at a lot of things.
One of the first things is being able to release the need to keep score.
Yeah.
I think that happens a lot in relationships,
100%.
family relationships, romantic relationships, marriage relationships, all of them. And, that's, healthy relationships aren't transactional like that, right? So there's really no need to be doing that. So if you are, I mean, balance matters. It does. But I think being able to let that go, there's that phrase again. That's going to be one of the first steps to being able to recognize and acknowledging if we're keeping tally, keeping score. Okay, set that aside. Okay, what are we looking at here? It's almost like, a next step. Okay, now what next? And what next? And you're going to move through it like that. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
It's going to take some time. It's going to take some thought, a lot of thought, and different ways of working through things.
Well, if the person you're talking to or that you're having that issue with is checked out, so to speak, or has become kind of emotionally unavailable, they just it's kind of like you're now wah, 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 your voices, because it probably comes across like nagging.
Yeah.
I hate to say that because I think women get a bad rap. Men do it too. I mean, obviously, but women kind of get a bad rap. But the nagging thing comes from them having to constantly be asking or saying, can you take out the garbage? Can you, can we have some quiet time together, whatever, and it not happening, asking for something and not receiving, the resentment kicks in.
Yeah.
So something to think about.
Well, there's a difference between temporary imbalance and complete one-sidedness.
So there's a good point.
Yeah.
So if you've got let's talk romantic relationship for a second. It's like there are periods of time. It's like if you look at it like a whole of 100%. There's going to be times when one person's 70, the other person's 30, and vice versa.
Yes.
There's going to be people that are going to pick up things more often than not. But if it maintains that imbalance, it's like there's something wrong.
I can't think of where it was I saw it. I did see a scene between a couple about exactly what you talked about, that percentage, and a couple that, every night when they would come together, depending, not like, how was your day? It was like, what percentage are you at? Right. And, if one said 40 or maybe 30, it was like, it was rough today, 30%.
So when you're saying percentage, is it how their day was or how their resentment level is?
I mean, no, how are things? How are you doing?
Okay. Did you have a shitty day on a 1 from 10? Okay. I get it.
So that percentage, so that it gives, and then the other person might be, damn, like me too. And really knowing what to do together. Or if the other person, it was totally, man, I had 100%, I got you. Don't worry about what you don't have right now. Do you want me to make dinner, or let's do this instead of that?
That's actually a really great way to approach it.
But being able to communicate in that way with each other, and understanding, and really, like you were saying, I got your back. I got you. Don't even worry about it.
But what if it's the same every day?
That's where
you have to kind of.
She's asking the hard questions.
But that goes to the imbalance, because it's like if your person is in a really shitty job they hate, and they come home every day and they've gotten browbeaten or they feel inadequate or whatever. Every day is going to be like that. So are you picking up those pieces every day?
That's the temporary imbalance. And that comes to the communication. And nothing is going to be cookie cutter and even and the same all the time. And you're going to have to be flexible, understanding.
Yeah.
You're going to have to step up, maybe sometimes more than your spouse, not all the time. But those are the things that come into play when you can communicate.
I think too, that actually is a great point, because if in fact that is a consistent, or a constant, I should say, it would be my responsibility to say, hey, I'm noticing like a really big pattern here.
Yeah.
of you being unhappy on a pretty consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we need to think about
Why
the
don't you
job.
find a new job?
Well, it might be that you need to evaluate where you're working, what you're
Yeah,
doing,
yeah.
the schedule you have, if it's affecting, your life that way.
There's so many aspects of
Mm-hmm.
life that affect the relationship, right? All the outside things when you come together is that nucleus core of
Right.
the two people, or even yourself.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I think we would take on, and generationally, when you're talking about Gen X's and, people that are kind of in our age group, it's like
Mm-hmm.
we took on more. It's just like you work harder. We weren't necessarily always working smarter. And, that's where you see like these workaholics developed and stuff. When I see now is different. And I think it alleviates some of the potential for the feeling unappreciated or the resentment that's there. I can give you an example. My daughter, when they were looking for their house, they just got their house, and they were trying to determine the commute levels and where would be like the area that they would live that would give them a decent commute. Right, one had a much longer commute than the other. Well, clearly they needed to find a house that was within their budget, and so as we're going further north to get what they needed. Well, the further north you go, the longer the commute was going to be for one of them. And so my daughter was so cute. She's like, you know what? It's like, I just worry with that amount of commute time and how miserable he is when he's commuting because he's in traffic and he comes home and he's going to be home later. And then he's in a bad mood. And then we don't have our time together because it's more commute time. And she's thinking about it from a completely different perspective,
Yeah.
as opposed to, no, we're going to get this house at a killer price and the commute is what it is.
Right.
I would be like, a commute is what it is. But when you think about it, that was bad. I mean, like, we lived 25 miles out of the city.
Yeah.
Kids were commuting into the city. Jobs were in the city. We're in traffic constantly, getting home late. It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So it's like we lived our lives around what our jobs were as opposed to living our lives around what our lives needed to be and adjusting. So moving in closer, doing a different job.
Those trade-offs. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like people are becoming more aware of the ramifications of some of those decisions and trying to avoid it from the very onset, which I think is so cool.
So it's interesting too, because some of the growth things in regard to resentment are some of the things that we talk about all the time. And that is speaking up sooner.
Yeah.
So that resentment doesn't fester. Ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
If it's needed, ask for help. I know that's hard.
It's almost kind of cliche. These are such easy things to say and not necessarily to
easy
execute.
Say, hard do. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like resentment isn't proof that you're bitter. It's proof that you need to make a change.
Yeah.
And whatever that change is, if it's the job change or if it's the way you communicate or whatever, it's proof to you that you need to make a change or you stay the same, which is in that case not great.
Yeah, we did an episode on that. Nobody benefits from that.
No.
Right, when you stay the same. But also choosing yourself, being able to choose yourself without feeling guilty about it. That's super important.
And letting things fester. Honestly, if you let them fester for too long, like I was mentioning about that elderly woman that's no longer with us, it's like I shudder when I think of how she chose to live the remaining part of her life. Well, it was her basically almost her whole adult life, probably from 45 or so on after her divorce, which was a nasty divorce, but she never recovered from any of that, and it carried on into her death.
Yeah.
And it's just sad because it's like there's just this really wonderful woman that just turned into a prune that was like sucking on a lemon. It was horrible.
And part of that is not that specifically what you're talking about, but being able to let go of perfectionism.
Yeah.
I mean, we are human. Nobody is perfect. Cliche phrase that we've heard all the time throughout life, but it's true.
It's true.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
So we got to let that go. And things feel a lot lighter if you can come to that understanding, right? I'm certainly not perfect.
Really?
And usually when you're pointing the finger, when you're pointing the finger,
pointing the other ones back.
You got three pointing back at you.
The point is I think that this topic of resentment definitely grows in silence, and the silence that you have. So as women who are taking responsibility for their spiciness, and when we say spicy, we don't mean like sexual spicy, we just mean their courage to be stronger, their courage to speak up. The healing starts with being honest, and that honesty starts with ourselves. So
I love that.
So this is some of the stuff that we talk about in our coaching program.
In our coaching program, we have a one-on-one coaching program, Step into Spicy Confidence. And I mean, I would say communication, that's a big one that we go into. And this has to do with all of that.
All of it,
you know, communication is key. Another little phrase that we hear a lot, but true. If you want to know more about that one-on-one coaching program, the link to apply for that is in our show notes. It's in the bio on all of our socials, so you can find it there. We also have you'll see it. It's a Stan Store link, and we've got spicy merchandise now that's available. We got t-shirts, hats, a lot of fun merchandise. You know, I like the one. It's a t-shirt that says "Done raising kids,
now raising hell." Yeah. Or
true.
Spicy AF. We've got a few really fun ones.
So we just go check that out. And but the one-on-one coaching, our Stan Store link is show notes and all the socials. And just can't wait for you to check it out.
Subscribe, YouTube, all those good places that we're at. And you can also just DM us spicy if you want to talk to us.
DM
we would be happy to DM you back.
We're happy to give more information. If you have questions, anything like that. So
all right, well, until next week.
Until next time.
You and I are gonna stay spicy.
Oh yeah. So
we're not gonna build any resentment, and we are gonna talk to each other.
All right, everybody.
All right. Peace out, people.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.